Caesar biography, reading 5, Pontifex Maximus. These videos are designed to give you the background information before you read the text. So we're going to go quick because I know time is short. This is election of Pontifex Maximus for Julius Caesar, occurred 63 BC. He was born 100 BC, so he's about 37 years old, getting into his political prime, but still a young upstart. Now, what is this election for Pontifex Maximus, and why is it important? Well, the Pontifex Maximus, or chief priest, was responsible to regulate all religious ceremonies. When the Senate met, and anytime you had a political assembly, you had prayers and offerings done by the priest. The bigger the ceremony, bigger the chief priest. So therefore, every time the Senate met, Caesar would get the first say, or whoever became Pontifex Maximus. Consecration or responsibility of all temples, because temples and religious temples and political life were combined, this becomes an important job for the Pontifex Maximus, because Caesar, or whoever becomes Pontifex Maximus, spoiler, he becomes that, is able to also have an accounting of all public works that are done. He also has the regulation of the calendar. Now, the Romans used a lunar calendar every 28 days, but as a result, the calendar gets way out of whack because the year is a solar year. Therefore, the responsibility of the Pontifex Maximus was to put in what are called intercalendary days or weeks or even months at certain times to set the calendar right. Sometimes the calendar would be off by 8, 9, 10 months. The nice benefit is if you happen to be consul during this time and you're Pontifex Maximus, as Julius Caesar was in his third consulship, he was able to extend the year almost an entire 100 days. So you also have the responsibility of the law regarding the worship of burial places, worship of the ancestors, which the Romans were very serious about. When they had in the tablinum, they had their funeral masks of the dead, of the consuls and of the praetors and of the aediles and all of the magistrates. Every funeral you would have the procession and the people would be wearing these masks. So every funeral, the Pontifex Maximus could be responsible for them. Funerals were big public affairs. Superintendencies of all marriages. So the Pontifex Maximus could be responsible at every marriage and have some say in the matter. Now remember, marriages were political alliances in Rome, not romantic, especially among the patricians. Therefore, if you have control of marriages and your political enemies are trying to team up, the Pontifex Maximus had the right to make it, if not close it out, make it very difficult. Administration of the law of adoption and succession. Now, adoption, we think of as babies, but really, as we'll see much later, the power of adoption gives you the ability to change your family. Or, say if you're a patrician and you want to run to be a tribune of the plebs, that's only open for plebeians. You had to come from a plebeian family. The Pontifex Maximus had that ability to change your ranking. And then finally, regulation of all public morals. Now, of course, Rome was pretty rough at this time, and always is in all politics. There's always a great amount of questionable activity, as it were, of a moral sense. We see it throughout all of history. However, there's an ability as regulation of public morals that the Pontifex Maximus can take a political enemy and decide to charge them on virtually anything. So in other words, this is a really large position which you hold for life. You get certain perks. One is the Domus Regius, which is the king's house, old building in Rome, and it happens to be in the center of the forum. So if you're a political animal, which of course all Romans were, Everybody, every day they go down to the forum, they're going to see your house. They're going to see you. You're going to be well known. Also, it requires the supervision of the Vestal Virgins. They would live in the Domus Regia. And the Vestal Virgins, of course, had special seating at all plays, special seating at all amphitheater. Well, there wasn't an amphitheater at this time, but all gladiatorial combat, all public shows, they had a special seat. And as Pontifex Maximus, you got to sit right next to them. Also, the Vestal Virgins were in charge of wills. Wills are an incredible part of the Roman Empire at this time, or any time, because you're controlling property at the will. And it's confidential unless you're the Pontifex Maximus in charge of the wills. Think of the bribery abilities. Finally, you also are in charge of all official documents in the state. Well, you don't think that's important. We have Wikipedia, we have Google, but the reality is the Romans ran according to mos maiorum, the custom of the ancients. So if you had the entire repository of all the documents at your fingertips, you have the ability to bring up any legal precedents you want politically. It becomes, under Caesar, a very charged political position. Hence why the election was so closely contested. How are they elected? Well, they're elected through the Comitia Tributa, Comitia or Assembly of the Tribes. These are not family tribes, but these are more zip code, where you live in Rome, divided among 35 different groups. It's the most democratic of all the assemblies because it's not based on property, as we'll see soon on the Comitia Centuriata, but it's based on where you live. It's patricians and plebeians. They'll get one vote per tribe, so the most amount of people who garner or gain the votes in that tribe will get the vote for that tribe. They elected quaestors, aediles, and the Pontifex Maximus. The importance of the election of the Pontifex Maximus through the Comitia Tributa shows the popularity, not necessarily the power, of the aspirant for the office. All right, so big thing on the Pontifex Maximus: responsibilities, duties, perks, privileges, and most importantly, power. Just to give it in sense, read through, highlight, come up with a good paragraph. We'll see it in class.